Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the English Hour. Today, we'll talk about social media and specifically on the question of whether social media is a waste of time or not. Well, I guess this is a very controversial issue because it's not a black and white type of question. There are a lot of gray areas, and there are times social media can be very helpful, useful in your job, in your daily life, and there are times when it can be very detrimental. So I guess it's better to sort of define the use of social media into two categories and talk about the benefits and harms of social media. What do you think, John-Mark? Would that work?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely work because chopping it up into smaller chunks would definitely help us in any way, shape, or form if we're capable of doing that. The first thing that comes to my mind about this issue is that we have an audience who is predominantly young people because language learners typically tend to be young people.
Yeah, 18 to 35 mostly.
Yeah, 18 to 35. So there is a misconception out there basically that says you can't learn a language if you're 40, 50 years old. And that's actually not true. It has been proven incorrect according to research. But it's just people do not want to take up another language. It's like embark on this long journey. If they are like 40, 50 years old, they have other things to do, basically.
Yeah.
So if it is a younger audience...
Maybe taking care of their grandchildren.
Yeah. Help another person learn a language rather than learn it themselves. You know, if we have a younger audience, it is really hard to talk to them about social media because it's like we are going on 30, right? We are like over 25 and going on 30. And like they are digital natives.
We're approaching a milestone, I think, in our lives. Yeah. 30 seems like an interesting turning point.
Definitely. Like it is five away from the midlife.
Yeah, situation. It's like, well, there is this famous Turkish poet, Orhan Veli, right? Uh-huh. He said, age 45 is half of my life or something like that.
Yeah.
Or how would you say it?
Yeah, it's like...
Oh no, yolun yarısı eder. It's not like that. It's
middle of the road.
Yeah, it's the middle of the road. Or I'm halfway through my journey.
Yeah, that type
so
of thing.
Guys, we're also translating lines, poems for you. So
I doubt it's Orhan Veli, but I don't know.
Oh really? Who was it?
I'm tempted to say Cahit Sıtkı, but it's
maybe
like
my
ignorance is showing here.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's been a long while since I last took a Turkish test, so you pardon us, guys. But we at least know that it's Turkish.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
so basically, what I'm trying to get at is, it's hard for us to talk to people who are born into this. Like they are born into Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and it's almost like lifeline for some of those people.
I guess it's very difficult to say that, okay guys, you should abandon these platforms.
It's almost like saying your life is a waste of time, like rather than social media is a waste, because some people are very into, like not some people, a lot of people are very into this.
Yeah, I guess it's part of their social life.
Yeah, it's part of how they interact with their friends and people around them. Like it's just like we are talking right now, they're talking on these devices. They are interacting with, each other based on their likes and their daily agendas and their interests.
Yeah.
And, it's a testament to how big these companies are. Like all of these are billion-dollar companies.
Yeah, but I guess there's a twist to the story. For example, here we're talking about social media and how it might be harmful or beneficial. But again, you can also think about the real life social life. The real social life. The real social life can be a waste of time, right?
That's right. Sometimes it's
like,
possible.
Yeah, it's really about your mentality, mindset, how you manage your life and time. So it might be perfectly possible not to spend a single minute on social media sites or apps, but waste a lot of time in real life in social settings. Definitely. There are some people who really like to party and just hang around. And then in that case, you will still end up using or wasting a lot of your valuable, precious time that you cannot get back in any way.
Definitely. Well, social media, when you look at the premise, social media is a waste of time, it is something, honestly, from a personal standpoint, something that I can get behind. Personally, I actually believe that social media can be a huge waste of time if not managed properly. So I approach with caution. I approach all kinds of social media with caution. Please.
You're not supposed to manage your social media use. Social media companies are supposed to manage you.
Yeah,
You're doing a great disservice, John Park.
yeah, they're doing a great job, by the way.
Yeah, they are habit-forming products.
Excellent artificial intelligence use for them. For us, it's horrible.
Yeah, it
but
is.
For them, it's great. It's like whatever algorithm can help put people on videos and keep them on videos for as long as possible wins the game. And this is there's some machine learning, deep learning being getting involved in this as well.
Yeah.
They are improving and optimizing the processes by which they keep you hooked on these social media platforms, and they're improving their game. But if you're not improving yours, then you're going to be beaten at your own game.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of people are unaware of the fact that social media companies are manipulating them, exploiting them. So,
Definitely.
guys, you might not really understand this, but one day you'll come to realize it. For example, some of the former Facebook executives, they've come out to say that they've used a lot of psychological tricks and a lot of methods to keep users coming back to the site, to keep them coming back to the site and spending as much time as possible. It's true for WhatsApp, it's true for Instagram, it's true for YouTube. And as Canberk mentioned, these platforms will do anything to engage you, will do anything to keep you coming back. They'll show you stupid cat videos, they'll show you a lot of conspiracy theories, they'll show you all kinds of
politically oriented videos.
Yeah, they'll show
all
you
kinds of things.
All kinds of things that will have you glued to the screen. So it can be very, very harmful in that regard.
Yeah, I feel like Morpheus right now, trying to disabuse Neo and trying to turn him into the chosen one in Matrix.
Yeah, well,
it's like trying to basically dispel a person's illusions so that they can see the reality.
I'd like to laugh a little bit because I might be one of the few people who haven't watched Matrix. And when there are references to the movie, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay in the dark.
Yeah, basically.
I'm just gonna pretend that. It's
just
fine.
Smile and go on.
Smile and nod
keep going.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point, buddy.
Yeah. Well, so that's one interpretation.
Yeah.
From a personal standpoint, I don't know if you agree with this. Like, do you think? How do you look at it? I'm not sure.
The social media. I guess there is not a definitive answer, but at its core, social media companies are okay. They will have lofty goals. Mark Zuckerberg would say, our goal is to help people communicate and connect, but the ultimate purpose is to sell ads to advertisers and make billions for the company.
Which is they're doing.
Yeah,
So
a lot of social media companies have a lofty goal that they try to promote, but beneath it there's a lot of dark stuff going on.
Yeah, basically business, greedy, human greed, basically.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I guess in essence, social media, it's helpful for the dissemination of information, but it is also evil. In some part.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, there is not a definitive answer. I cannot say it's good or bad, but I can give a lot of examples where it's good or bad. For example, I think it's a great way to find like-minded people or to find interesting people. For example, I use Twitter to follow interesting people all around the globe.
Yeah.
I like to connect with entrepreneurs. I like to connect with educational companies that are doing interesting experiments. I like to connect with people who have something valuable to share. I don't like following crappy accounts that disseminate stupid jokes. I mean, that's not my type. But there was a time when I was doing that. So everyone. So I mean, if you're,
it's a period, guys.
Yeah,
it's
the thing is, like, if you are currently in that period of your life, don't worry, it'll come to an end. So we all go through those stages. So right now I'm more into learning. So I use social media to connect with interesting people, to have meaningful conversations. So that's my purpose, and in that regard, it has been very helpful, and I've been able to connect or form relationships with hundreds or maybe hundreds of thousands of people on a scale.
Definitely.
And that's beautiful. But then, for example, it's also a time sucker. For example, I have to use Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I mean, I guess I use Twitter mostly for personal enjoyment, but I use YouTube and Instagram for learning and for teaching. So I have to be active on those platforms by definition. But then, if I'm active, I will constantly be getting nagged with notifications, disturbances and stuff. So, I mean, in order to avoid that, I simply turned off notifications. So I see notifications whenever I log into the app. So I define my time frame. But for a lot of people, it's a very simple trick, but a lot of people fail to understand it, or they don't think about it. So because, you're trying to study and then someone likes your photo, comments on it, or you're trying to get something done, a project done, then you keep a stream of comments sliding down your screen. And I mean, it's human nature. You become interested. You unlock your phone, look at the notifications, and then without realizing it, you spend, half an hour or an hour on your phone. Yeah. You don't really understand how fast time goes by.
Definitely.
So in order to avoid that, I try to aggregate my time. So I turn off the notifications and I log into those apps when I want to, not when the app wants me to. And I try to
manage it.
And then I try to, as I said, aggregate my time. So I will either spend time in the evening or in the afternoon. I'll spend my time, instead of spending like 5 minutes then 5 minutes later, I'll try to spend like a certain period of time and answer to as many questions as possible, answer to as many comments as possible. So that's how I go about it.
Yeah.
And in that way it's helpful. But if I let social media dictate my schedule, then I'll not have a life.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
you can easily be overwhelmed.
Yeah, because there are people writing comments, asking questions 7/24 or 24/7, as the Americans would say.
The generation of useless information has really exploded over the last decade. My take on it is this. Basically, social media is a waste of time is a premise that deals more with the consumption of social media, not generation or production of social media content, because we need to make a distinction between the two things. For example, you are a YouTube creator, somebody who communicates through YouTube, and this is actually your primary channel, your primary platform, as far as I know, right?
Yeah.
This podcast actually is being broadcast but on YouTube, on podcast
iTunes,
applications,
Spotify.
So all of these things are social media tools that a lot of people use, basically the whole world uses. So it is really important, it's really valuable that millions of people have access to tools with which they can express themselves, they can put out content, they can contribute to this huge conversation taking place across cultures, across nations and ethnicities. This is great. This part is excellent.
And it's great for learning.
Definitely.
I mean, for example, every day I listen to podcasts or YouTube channels that I like, that are about the things that I'm interested in. It can be learning, it can be business, it can be new technologies. And it's beautiful, because, so before having lunch, as we were leaving the office for lunch, I was talking to John Berk about a specific podcast that I really enjoyed. So
and I dig it too.
Yeah, a lot of effort went into that podcast, and it's produced by someone who is very famous and successful in the Silicon Valley. And I was like, oh my God, this is someone that I would have a very hard time reaching. So if I tried to email this guy, I would not probably get an answer back.
It would take a decade.
Yeah, or none, basically, because he would be incredibly busy. But then he shares his ideas, his examples, his experiences on a podcast, and I can reach it, and it's beautiful. It's very intellectually satisfying.
Yeah, access to information has taken a whole different meaning with social media. So this part is great. The part that is tricky is that when you consume social media, you have to be really careful. That's the part where social media is a waste of time premise. The idea that social media could be a waste of time comes in handy and is relevant. So My idea about this, my advice would be to manage time and space in your social media dealings and interactions. Managing time, as you said, involves maybe chunking. Like you don't have to look at social media every 5 minutes. You don't have to even look at it every hour, because most of the time things on social media, content on social media platforms are not urgent in nature. If you're following news, if you're following really good journalists all around the world, maybe if it is your job or if you aspire to become a journalist yourself, then it might be a good idea to keep following them, 24/7 maybe. But that's a special case, that's an outlier.
Yeah.
For most people, nothing on social media, not on Instagram, not on Twitter or YouTube, is urgent.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be looking at it every 5 minutes and completely distracting and taking you away from the important thing that you need to be focusing on, be it classes or your studies, be it your actual work. If you're at a workplace and you're going through Instagram and doing all that, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So basically, manage time by chunking. Like, just maybe spare 30 minutes to an hour a day, maybe in the afternoon, maybe in the evening when you're relaxing at home, when you have nothing important to do. It could be a good idea to while off and relax. That's managing time. Managing space involves managing your accounts in a way that keeps them secure, especially keeps your information secure, and allows you to create a framework within which you can have positive and productive interactions. So that means, for example, a real life example is friending people who will be really good for you, and keeping people who are going to be bad for you away from your account.
Yeah, we were talking about toxic people in one of the previous episodes.
Exactly. So try to have your own borders in social media. You have a social media existence, you need to have borders.
Sure.
And if that involves having to take your account private, then do it. No problem.
Yeah.
Not everybody has to access your photos and your private information all around the world. There's no need for that. Try to manage that. And that is the managing space part, basically.
Yeah.
So if you manage time and space, you can really interact positively with social media and you can have a good life. So no problem there. But the problem is, for example, there was an event, I think, in one of the Southeast Asian countries the other day, like last week. A rumor spreads like wildfire on WhatsApp in a village setting. And basically a person is named, is being scapegoated, and this person is accused of really grievous behavior, like rape or harassment, that type of thing. And villagers basically come together, and unfortunately they took this person's life because of a rumor that proved to be untrue. And this is what social media is able to do, This is what dissemination of false information can create.
Yeah.
So these situations are dangerous, you have to be really careful about what you're doing. And the Arab Spring, it is all because of this availability of information. And you can say it was good because people, tasted democracy or like other things, but this is actually, unfortunately, this is illusions and lies being fed to you by Western-oriented news outlets.
Yeah.
And this is like a strategy for their countries, for their governments, to try to convince people of different nations, basically the whole world, that what happened there was good. But unfortunately, it wasn't good.
But there's turmoil and nothing else here.
Yeah. So, and that was a product of social media.
Yeah.
Like, this is what made it possible. We have to be careful in every venue. So, social media is no different.
Well, the thing is, I think I can look at the issue from a more personal level, or at a more personal level. For example, when you engage in social media excessively, I think you are not being present in your life. So you're talking to your friends, you're with your loved ones, you're with your family, or close ones. But then if you're glued to your screen, if you're constantly checking notification, then it will be very difficult to have meaningful conversations, because meaningful conversations or close conversations require attention, empathy. They are bilateral. It's not a one-side conversation.
Definitely.
So you have to be present, and
You have
you
a
have
role
to
to
be
play.
present as much as possible. And if you are engaged in notifications and social media all the time, it makes it very difficult to be present in your life.
You know what? Interestingly, I'm interrupting. Even keeping your mobile phone on the table when you're having a conversation with a person creates an atmosphere in which the other person is always kind of on edge. Like, are they going to completely disengage with me and keep looking at their, start looking at their phone?
That's very distracting.
It's very distracting.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you need to put away. If you're having a conversation, just put away your phone. You don't have to be involved in that. It's disrespectful in a way.
I had a very similar experience. It's not like I was having a conversation. So there was a makeup class a couple days ago, and a lot of people, we tend to, if we're sitting down, if we're sitting on a chair, to feel more comfortable, we take out the phone and turn it on the table. So, but if your phone is on, like if the screen is looking towards you, then if there is a notification, you see it, right? If it's not in a do not disturb mode, you see that notification. And I realized that a lot of people will turn to their phones upon seeing a notification. So I consciously turned my phone upside down so I wouldn't see the screen.
Yeah.
And I had it in the do not disturb mode, so I didn't have anything. But I could see a lot of people looking at their phones when there was a notification, and it's very distracting, especially in an academic setting, because you're trying to deal with some complex ideas, issues, arguments, and if you lose track of one of the thoughts or arguments, then it makes it very difficult to sort of see the whole thing, the whole picture.
And when you hop on a bus today, just look up and look around you at what's going on. You're gonna see that 80% of the people, or even more, are looking at their smartphone screens.
Yeah.
Just be completely engulfed in the content they're consuming. And most of that is actually social media.
It is.
Or games or things like that. But social media definitely has a mainstay presence. It's always there on people's screens. And it's a problem,
Yeah.
It's like a lot of meetups all around the world have turned into collective Instagramming right now. It's like people coming together to have a bite and have a chat, but all of them are on their screens and they're completely disengaged.
Oh, you ruined a perfect photo shot by taking a bite out of that food.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
How
need to
dare
take
you.
a photo of it.
How dare you.
Yeah.
You're supposed to stay away from the food until we take a perfect picture of that table. That's interesting,
It is.
I think a lot of people are complaining, especially in family settings, that there's lack of privacy. Like people, maybe you might be privacy conscious and you consider your actions, online actions carefully, but then people around you, they might not be caring about your privacy, so they might be posting your photos, like photos that you're in, and they might basically be broadcasting your life without you knowing it. So it's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I guess this basically wraps up today's conversation on social media. There are a lot of things to discuss for sure, but we'll keep it here because we have things to do. So for now, we'll say goodbye, but we'll meet you in the next episode.
Yeah, definitely.